camera angle this morning because it's so dark and, I don't know, misty outside. I can't tell if it's getting ready to storm or not. All right. Got lots, well, two, that's a lot, fun recipes this morning. I'm trying to open my seltzer so it doesn't spew everywhere on camera. It always goes everywhere. Okay, so this morning we're talking about cobbler, which is one of my favorite things in the universe. I say that about everything, but maybe I just love all food. True story, I do. But this morning we're going to start out with a cocktail, which I know it's 11 o'clock, but hey, it's a Friday. So that's what we're going to start off with. This recipe is really interesting, and it's not, people are like, ooh, it tastes like cobbler. No, it doesn't. But it's a really, it's a cool play on words for the show today. But it's a very cool recipe because it's got a lot of history. So cobbler, the drink, not the food. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Chris. How are you guys? Was actually, it's a pre-prohibition beverage, and it does not taste like blueberry cobbler. It actually is traditionally, I think, made with sherry. I could have that wrong. But we're going to make it with whiskey today. And what it's kind of known for is it was one of the first American drinks that we used ice and straws, allegedly. So those were kind of like, I guess, novelty things back pre-prohibition. But it's just a very classic drink that's been around for a long time, and I believe you can check my facts and you can prove me wrong. I'm happy to learn more always, but I'm pretty sure it was called cobbler because of the ice. That's what we're going with. Okay, so speaking of which, I forgot my ice. Barbara, don't laugh at me because you know there has to be some sort of mess up during this cooking class. Otherwise it would be boring, right? Okay, 1 second. Give me ice. I can never get the ice actually out of the ice maker, which is very helpful. I guess we could use some really cool ice that we sell at the store too, like a Neptune ice ball, and those big chunky squares for those craft cocktails. I'm using a rocks glass today, but if you look up cobbler recipes, you'll see millions of different variations of it. Cobbler drink recipes and cobbler, traditional cobbler recipes too. But you'll see a lot of them in highball glasses, and I think that is probably the more traditional way to do it, just because the whole straw thing, right? Sure, that's what we're going to go with. Okay, so I actually didn't want that in there right now. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take an orange, and we are just going to slice it with my Wusthof knife, which on the camera looks bigger than me. It's not, it's only 8 inches. Hopefully I'm taller than 8 inches. Hi, Cheryl. How are you? Okay, so a couple slices of orange into your glass, your cocktail shaker, excuse me. Set that over here. Then we're going to have a splash of simple syrup, which is just sugar and water. There's a recipe for that already posted. An ounce or so. Then muddle with your muddler all together. Smells good already. Muddle it really good. I like the orange flavor. This is also a good time if you wanted to add something like mint to the recipe or something like that from your garden. That would be a good time to add that. Then we're going to take 3.5 ounces of whiskey or sherry or cognac or whatever you really like. Very flexible recipe. The ice. And what else did I forget? I think that's it. Alright, now we're going to shake. This is a Boston style shaker, which I don't have a strainer with me right now. Remember that cocktail shaker I threw across the room? Well, it finally bit the dust because I did that again. Don't ask. Okay. Shake it. This is more professional looking anyway. Kind of turns orangey, especially if a really juicy orange. Oh my god, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. Okay. I didn't do it. Preferably with a strainer, because you're gonna get some of those orange seeds, but that's okay. Into a glass. Top it off with some club soda. You don't have to do this part. I just like a little fizzy in my drinks. Then garnish. I hear a child coming. Okay. Garnish with an orange slice. Beautiful. And just because I love cocktail cherries, and the boozier the better, these are actually really boozy. These are the ones that come from the store. Just a couple of cherries. 11 o'clock in the Nicholas household, and we're already having a cocktail. All right, and a big cocktail at that. There you go. So pretty. And so good. All right, enjoy that one. It's a rich drink with a lot of history. Very cool. Alrighty, on to probably why you're actually here. Actually, that's not true. You guys probably actually came for the cocktails. That's the majority of my viewership. That was not an insult, by the way. I love you all. Okay, so this recipe is super, super simple. It's like 1 cup, 1 cup, 1 cup, 1 cup. Very easy to do. There are a lot of different cobbler recipes out there, different berries, different toppings. Cobbler is more cakey than like a crisp or Betty White. You know what I'm talking about. It actually is, I kind of think of it as like more of a shortbread kind of topping. And I love cobbler mostly because of the topping. Berries are great, but I like the topping with lots of butter. So, speaking of butter, that is the first thing we're going to do. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And while it is preheating, take your stick of butter, which I think is what, 8 tablespoons? We're going to use 6 of them. Or more. Just eyeball it. So cut it in pieces, slices, chunks, whatever you want. 6 tablespoons of it. And again, not surprising to you all, I used more. All right, I'm going to grab my 9x13 baking dish that I actually had preheating a little bit in the oven just so it wouldn't take as long. You're going to take your 6 tablespoons of butter and you are going to melt it in your pan. So this is what I was saying, like while you're preheating, just go ahead and slice your butter. Just pop it back in the oven, and then once it's melted, we're going to take it back out. Sorry, I keep leaving the camera. You don't want it to brown, you just want it to melt. So, definitely use that later. Do you love how I'm wielding this knife today? I swear to goodness, this knife is not that big, but it looks huge with this camera angle. With stealth knives are the best. Definitely for a cocktail. Me too, Maria. Cheers, sister. Looks so refreshing. And yes, I like the club soda edition. Sprite's also good as well. Anything fizzy, or you don't have to do it all. Totally up to you. Okay, so while that's melting in the oven, this recipe that I posted actually was just blueberries. But again, I'm a big advocate of cleaning out your fridge. So, and we're actually going away for a couple days, so I have a ton of berries in my fridge. So I decided just to take them all out and use them all. Peaches are also one of my all-time favorites as well to use in cobbler. But I have some blackberries, I have some raspberries, and I have a lot of blueberries. So 4 cups-ish. Doesn't really matter that much. 4 cups of blueberries. ½ cup of white sugar, and My sister called me. My sister, aka Roanoke store manager. Hopefully she's okay. Lemon zest just to brighten up the flavors. About a teaspoon or so of lemon zest. Smells so good. I use lemon in everything. Alright, that's more than a teaspoon, but that's okay. That's what we're gonna go with. Give it a stir. And don't worry, like I get this question a lot. I've done this for a few cooking classes, in-person cooking classes, pre-COVID, and they're always like, don't you have to cook the berries down on the stove and, you know, let them macerate together? You do not. This is totally fine. Trust me, the moisture will be drawn out and it will be bubbling up in that 6 tablespoons of butter. So don't you worry. Okay, so let that sit. I'm gonna go check just to make sure my butter isn't browning, which actually might be kind of good now that I think about it. Brown butter cobbler. Ooh. I'm not gonna do that today though. That's a good thought for later. Okay. 6 tablespoons of butter. I know you can see it swimming around, but it's swimming around for sure. Set that off to the side. All right, in a mixing bowl, we have 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of sugar, let's see, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Get out your little, baking powder is something I've actually, one of the few things that I'm very specific about. That is 1/8 teaspoon, that is not going to be helpful. Sorry, y'all. 1.5 tisps. Reminds me of Sleeping Beauty. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Are you from my generation? Tisp. When the little fairy's making the cake that's fallen over to the side, she calls it a tisp. Anywho. Okay. 1.5 tisp and 1 cup of cold milk going in, and a pinch of salt. 1/2 teaspoon, pinch of salt. Whisk it all together. I believe in the recipe I was actually a little more careful. I said put all the dry ingredients whisked together and then stir in the milk, but it's okay. It'll be fine. Just whisk till you get the chunks out, and it'll look very, very, very similar to a pancake batter. Very popular today. Everyone keeps calling me. And I have asked Verizon why I cannot turn the do not disturb on my phone on. They have no answers for me, so I'm sorry I have to keep declining phone calls. Okay. All whisked together, nice and pretty. Looking good. Very similar to a pancake batter. Not too runny. Kind of thick-ish. Take your baking dish that you have the 6 tablespoons of butter in. Try not to throw it. Then, dump your berries into the baking dish. And I have to admit, this is the way my grandmother or my nanny always did it. In this big dish, I think people like it like that. But if you want to use a smaller dish and have higher stacks of berries, and if you want to double your, I've been known to do this. I wish I had actually, because now I just love, love, love the cakey part of the cobbler. So I actually a lot of times double my cake part of the cobbler recipe, because I just like that so much more. Anyway, you can also do it in a cast iron skillet. That is fine too. In fact, the one I have made that I will show you in a second was done in a cast iron skillet last night. It looks awesome. Okay, so now, once you have your berries down in your butter, you are going to just pour over and all over your berries. And don't worry too much about getting everything covered or everything perfect. It's all gonna bubble through in the end, so it doesn't really matter. And the great thing, I know it seems like so much butter in the bottom, But the great thing about all that butter in the bottom, it bubbles through to the cake part, and it just makes it buttery. There's no other better word. It's just buttery, 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 buttery. So, that is what it looks like. If you can see it. I got dough on my arm now. And you just pop it into a 350-degree oven for about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on your oven. Of course, all ovens are made differently. But once, I mean, it doesn't take long to cook. There's no eggs, there's none of that stuff. So as soon as it, firms up and gets golden and crispy, and you can start to see the fruit bubble up and the butter bubble up, once everything starts bubbling up, you're good. You're golden. You're ready to go. So let me pop that. Why am I having such a hard time grabbing this? Pop that in the oven, and I will be back with a complete one. You guys can't see me struggling over here, but for some reason I am struggling with this big casserole dish. Okay. And through the magic of television, or the World Wide Web, we have a blueberry one that's all done. I'm gonna like throw this at the camera. Turn it just enough so you can see it. But you see how it's golden on top? That's the butter. The butter made its way. The butter likes to swim up, so that's delicious. And this one's a blueberry one. Just before you serve it, or serve it immediately after you get it out of the oven. But if you want to make it ahead, just heat it slowly in the oven and then serve it with ice cream or whipped cream or your Cobbler cocktail. And there you go. Delicious, delicious, delicious. So everyone, send me any shots that you have of your different variations of Cobbler. That is it for me today. I'm going to enjoy some Cobbler because I haven't had breakfast yet, and this is a perfect breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever, with my Cobbler cocktail at 11 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. So again, this was also a request from you guys out there, what you wanted to see. I think this is one of the easiest, most simple ways to make Cobbler. It's also can be used for shortbread as well. It's very, very versatile. So hopefully you enjoy. Let me see your pics, and I will see you next week. Thanks, guys.